Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl partner. So on today's video I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful 6 pieces dress. It's going to have a half length cut and with a dolman sleeve. By dolman sleeve I mean an extended shoulder sleeve, and also it's going to have a yoke with a full circle flare sleeve as well. It's going to be a loaded one actually, and so you need to stay back to the end of this tutorial as I take you through the process. I'm going to be breaking down this so much in a way that even a beginner will be able to understand it. Okay, so getting started, here are the fabrics I'm using. I'm making use of this beautiful African print. Then I have this lace. This is called a cord lace. I'm going to be using this for the yoke and also lining the sleeve as well, the circle sleeve. Then here also is a net, the soft net. I'll be using this for the ruffle. I'll be putting on the sleeve part and also on the lower part of the dress, okay, which is the 6 pieces part. And of course I have my lining here I'm going to be using as well, and every other working tools I'll be working with: my ruler, my chalk, my scissors, and yeah, on my tape room. So first of all, I'm going to cut out the upper part of this dress, okay? So I'll go ahead and cut out the fabric I'll be using for this. So getting started, this I'm going to be using to cut out the half length. Now first of all, take my measurements. The chest line I'm working with will be at 9, so I'm going to mark that out at 9 inches. The bust point measurement is at 11.5, but I'm going to add extra half of an inch because of the shoulder joining at the upper part. So 11.5, I will make it 12. Then the underbust is supposed to be 14. I'll also add half an inch because of the same shoulder joining at the top. So it becomes 14.5. And the half length I'm working with is 16 inches, then plus the extra allowances. So I'm going to be cutting off this lower part. So what I will do now is to convert all this point to a straight line. So now that I have my lines, I would like to label it. Here is the chest line, the bust points, the underbust, and the waistline. I hope you can see this. Please bear with me because of this fabric. I just hope you can see the markings. Then on this top now I'm going to put in my 3 by 8 inches method. So I'll mark my 3 inches here at the top and also my 8 inches mark. So at this 8 inches I'm going to come down by 1 inch. Now I'll connect it to the 3 inches mark here. Okay. Remember, this is going to have an extended shoulder, okay? So, but first of all, I'm going to create my cup, after which then we can now fix in the extended shoulder. So what I'm going to do now is to take the shoulder measurements of this person, which is 16. If I divide it by 2, I have 8 inches, okay? So 8 inches, I'll mark my 8 inches. I already have my 8 inches marked, so I'm just going to extend it to this chest line, the 8 inches mark, so I can get my angle 90-degree. Okay, so from here I'll get the center point at 4. From here I'll also come in by half of an inch so that I can get the front armhole. I will take it this way. Mind you, for the sake of creating this cuff, we are applying this method, but at the end of the day we are not going to be making use of this armhole. So here on this my chest line, I'm going to put in the bust measurements I'm working with, which is 38. If I divide it by 4, I have 9.5. I have 9.5 here. So to create my armhole curve. So from this point, I'm going to get this cuff measurement so that I can get the center. So from here, if I get the curve, what I have is 10, approximately 10. So if I divide it by 2, I have 5. So I'm going to mark out 5 inches point here. So you can see this point now is the center I need to create my the princess dart here. So I'll come to this bust point now. I'm fixing my bust span measurement I'm working with, which is 7 inches. If I divide by 2, I have 3.5, but I'm going to add 0.5 inches of allowance to it, which makes it 4. So at this bust point line, I'm going to mark 4 inches. Then at this under bust, I'll be marking, taking away 0.5 inches from it, which is what, 3.5. 4 inches at the bust point, take away 0.5 inches, and mark 3.5 at the under bust, and the same thing I'll repeat it at the waistline. So I'll connect this from the under bust to the waistline, then connect it to the bust point. Mind you, this side is discarded. I'm going to be cutting it off. This is the lower part. So from this bust point now, I'll connect it to the center we created at this armhole. So here we have our princess dart. Okay. So in order to create my cup, I'll come to this under bust line. I'm going to mark out 2 inches. Like I said, for a bust 38, 2 inches is ideal. If it's lower than 36, you can work with 1.5. If it's much bigger than 38, you can do 2.5, 3 inches, depending on how busty the person is. But for a bust 38, 2 inches is ideal. So I'm going to mark out 2 inches at this under bust. I'll repeat the same thing at the waistline. Then I'll connect it together. So at this bust point, I'm going to go up and down by 1 inch. So I'll place my tape here and mark out 1 inch above the bust point and also 1 inch below the bust point. So this 1 inch below the bust point, I'll connect it to my under bust to create my lower cup. So I have my lower cup here. Okay, so coming down to this armhole point now, what I'm going to do is, what I have here is 2 inches, right? So I'll take away 0.5 inches from these 2 inches that I'm left with 1.5 inch. So the 1.5 inch, I'm going to place it at this upper part, but I'll be splitting it into 2. So 1.5 inch divided by 2, I have 0.75. So I'm going to split it into 2. So I have 0.75 on this part, and also 0.75 on the other part. So these 2 points of 0.75, I'll be connecting them both to this 1 inch above the bust point. Okay, so I'll take my ruler. So this is helping me create my upper cup. So here we have it. You can see we've created our cup. So what I will do at this point where we have this mark facing the armhole, I'm going to extend this to 2 inches, okay? So that when we're joining it at the shoulder, we don't have, at the armhole point, we don't have a shortage. So I'm extending this point to 2 inches. It is ideal to do this every point, every single time you are cutting out a princess dart. So I extended it by 2 inches here, okay? So what is left now is to fix in my measurement. So coming to this chest line, remember the bust point, I've already marked it out here. I already have a point here. So what I will do is just to put in the dart measurements. And what I have here is on 1.5 inches. Okay, so I'm going to place it back here, 1.5 inch dart. Then with an extra 2.5 inches of allowance for sewing and the linings and all that. Then I'll come to the under bust line. I have 34 divided by 4. I have 8.5. I'll be putting in this dart of 2 inches. I'll fix it here. And also an extra sewing allowance of 2.5. So I'm extending this to the waistline. Then from here I connect it to the bust point line. So you can see this. So what is left for me now is to extend my shoulder, okay, so for us to create the dolman effect. So at this shoulder point, remember this is where the shoulder ends for this person at 8 inches. So I would like to extend it to 3.5 or 4 inches. Normally 3 inches, 2.5, 3 inches should be enough, but I would like to extend it to as much as 4 inches, so at the end of the day can always trim out the excesses. So I'm extending this shoulder now to 4 inches, okay? So this is the reason why I said at the end of the day, this armhole will not be necessary, but it was important for us to create the curve. So extending my shoulder to 4 inches or even 4.5, I just like to be on the safe side. So I'll take my ruler and extend it. So I have 4.5 here. Okay, so here is my new shoulder line, right? So what I'm going to do now is to take it from here and connect it to my bust line. So you can see this. So at the end of the day, we are not necessarily going to make use of this armhole. I hope you understand that. So that's it, guys. We're done. What is left now is to cut this out. Remember also that this is going to have a yoke. But when we're done cutting this out and also joining it, then afterwards I can now cut out my yoke, okay? But for now I'm not going to do that, and I'm also not fixing in the neckline now as well, okay? After the joining, then I'm going to do that. So what is left now is just to cut all this out. So here it is for the front piece. So I'll go ahead and cut out for the back piece. So for the back piece, I also have my lines drawn out, and here is the zipper allowance space I have here. So I'm also going to label this, the chest line, the bust points, the under bust, and of course the waistline. So I'll come here and also fix in my 8 by 3 inches mark. Don't forget the measurement is starting from this zipper line. So I'll mark my 8 inches and also the 3 inches mark. So this 8 inches, I'll also come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. Take it to the 3 inches mark. Okay. Then of course, repeating the same process, the shoulder line is 16 divided by 2, the same 8 inches. I'll extend it to this point. So from here, getting the center at 8, this is 8, getting the center at 4, I'll also create my armhole line. At this chest line, putting in my bust measurements of 38 divided by 4, 9.5, marking it here, then I'll just create my back armhole rather. Okay, so the same thing at this bust point, I'll fix in my bust bar measurement of 7 divided by 2, 3.5 plus 0.5, making it 4. So I'm marking out 4 at this bust point. At the under bust, I'll take away 0.5 inches as well and mark 3.5. I'll repeat the same thing, the waistline. So I have a straight line here, connect it to the bust point. Then at this armhole line, I'm also going to get the center, just like we did for the front piece. What I have here is about 9.5, so the midpoint is going to be 4.25 thereabouts. I have it here. Okay, so from this center, now I'm going to connect it to my bust point line. It's as easy as that. So we have created our princess belt. So this is quite straightforward. Okay, yeah. So usually when it comes to this back piece, because I just want this to be well straightened up, don't get me wrong, this is perfect, but this is optional as well. I choose to go up a bit. So at this point, I'll just move up by 1.5 inches. Okay, I'll just move up by 1.5 inches and connect it to this same bust point line. So in other words, what I'm saying is you can either maintain this one, or you can choose to, this is optional, it's nothing to be confused about. Okay, so I'm working with this because I just want it to be straightened up a bit. Okay, then I'll come to this point and extend it by 2 inches, just like we did for the front piece. Extending it by 2 inches because of the what, the joining at the armhole part. Okay, and that's it. It's that easy. So I'll come to the chest line now and fixing my measurements. So the bust measurement, remember, is 9.5. I already have it here. I'm just going to add this extra allowance I have here, which is optional, because if I had maintained this first line, there wouldn't have been need for this extra allowance. So I need to put it back. So 1.5 inch plus the 2.5 inches sewing allowance. Then coming to the under bust, 34 divided by 4, I have 8.5. So I'm also going to put in my 2.5 inch. Remember, there is no dart, so there's no need for that. I'm only putting in my allowance for sewing allowances. Now I'll just extend this to the waistline as well. And we're done. It's that simple. So what is left is just to connect this to the bust point line. Okay. So remember, we are having an extended shoulder, right? So for the front piece, I extended it by 4 inches. I later added half of an inch just to be on, on a safe side. And like I said, I can always trim out the excesses after. So I'll repeat the same thing here. I'm extending it to as much as 4.5 as well. So you can see I've extended this. So then from here, I'll just connect it to my bust line. So this way, it's that simple. We're done. We're done. So the next thing left now is just to cut all this out. And like I said also, remember there's going to be a yoke. When we're done cutting this out and joining it afterwards, after the joining, then I can cut out my yoke and also my neckline. Okay? The excesses. So here it is, guys. This is the back piece, and also this is the front piece. Okay, so what is left for me to do now is also to cut out the lining for this. It's going to be the same, because I'm just going to place it on my lining and cut the same piece out. Okay, after that I'll iron in my interfacing on it. Okay, after which then I'll join the side. So when I'm done joining this piece together, then I'll be able to cut out the yoke also, and also the neckline. Okay, yeah. So setting this aside, I'll be cutting out the lower part of this dress, which is what, the 6 pieces skirt. So in cutting out a 6 pieces skirt, have in mind that you have 3 pieces at the front, 3 pieces at the back. That's what makes it a 6 pieces, right? So although for the back piece, you're going to actually have 4 pieces, 2 piece for each side. That's 1 for one side of the back, 1 for the other side. Then the center is going to have 2 pieces, which actually makes it 4 pieces. But because of the zipper, after joining the zipper, okay, and close up, then you have it as a single 1 pieces. So at the end of the day, we still have 3 pieces for the back, 3 pieces for the front. That's what makes it a 6 pieces. Okay, and when it comes to this, each piece has a width at the lower part you should be working with. Okay, so I'm trying to explain this especially for the beginner so that you understand it. It's nothing difficult at all. Okay, so each piece of these three piece each for the front and back, each piece at the lower part has a width of your choice you want to work with. It could be 18, it could be 20, it could be 22, it could be 24, depending on how full you want the lower part to be. And in some cases also, depending on the amount of fabric that you have. Okay, yeah. So for me, the width of the lower part, I'm going to make it 22. That's how I want it. Luckily, my fabric is going to accommodate that. Okay, so I'm working with 22 inches for the width. Coming for the center, both the center front and the center back, when you're cutting it, it's going to be on fold, just like you have it here. You see, I have it on fold. So I have this on fold, which makes it what, 11 inches, right? But when you're cutting for the sides, the side for the front and the back, you're going to have it open this way. But if you're cutting for the center, both the center front and the center back is going to be what? On fold. So you need to take note of that. Okay, it's going to help you to understand it better. So the first cut I'm going to make now is for the center front. Okay, so you can see, I already have it on fold, and this is what on fold I have here 11 inches. I'm working with 11 inches, which means when I open it up, I have what, 22 inches, right? Okay, so having in mind that the full length of this dress I'm working with is 61, when I take away the half length cut of 16 inches, I'm left with 45. And what I have here is exactly 45. Ordinarily, I should be having my extra allowances at the upper part and also at the lower part. But remember, I'm going to be putting in a ruffle at the lower part. That's the net. I'm going to be using my net fabric to create a ruffle. So which means at the end of the day, I'll be cutting out some excesses, say about 2 inches or 3 inches, and replace it with my ruffle I'm going to create with the net. Okay, yeah. So in other words, I'm not adding any allowances here. Rather, I'm going to be trimming, and that's after I've joined all my skirts together. So I am working with this length of fabric. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to take note of my lines. This upper part, I will take it as my the waistline. I'm going to trim out these edges. I like to trim these edges out. So taking this upper part of my waistline, I'm going to mark out the hip line from waist to hip. I'm working with 9 inches. I'm marking that out. And I also need the knee measurement. So from my waist to my knee, I'm working with 18 inches as well. So I'll just connect this to a straight line. Okay. So coming out to this waistline here, I'll be fixing in my bust bar measurement of 7 inches, right? Divide by 2, 3.5. So I'll add 0.5 inches to that, which makes it 4. So I'm marking out 4 inches here. Then I'll also repeat the same process on my hip line as well. But then I'll come to the knee line. I will take away 0.5 inches from it, which makes it 3.5. So I'll connect these lines from my waist to my hip. You can see this. Then from here to the knee line. So from here, from this knee line, I will connect it straight down to the lower part of this dress. So you can see. So I'll just go ahead and cut this out. So this is for the center front. So I'm going to use this to cut for the center back. So for this center back, you can see I'm just placing the front piece over it, indicating the zipper allowance. So the back piece is having a zipper allowance of 2 inches. So I'm indicating it here, okay? So all I'll do is just to trace it out and cut it out. That's all. It's that simple. So I'll notch the zipper part, not the zipper allowance, okay? And I'm going to be slitting this back piece into 2. So here it is. So I'll go ahead now and cut out for the sides, okay? So in cutting out the side, remember I said for the center, just like you have here, this is the center piece for the front. Remember we cut it on fold. And I also said for the side, you're not going to be cutting it on fold, but you have it spread open, just as you can see. So what I have here is the same 22 inches, but I have 2 pieces here, which I'm going to be cutting out, okay? Because I'm cutting now 2 pieces for the side. That's one part for the side of the front and the other part for the other side of the front. So I have 2 pieces here at 22 inches in width. So what I'll do now is to take this my front piece here in order to create the shape at the side. So where we already have this shape, not the part that is on fold, take note, where we have it open, this part where we already created this shape, I'm going to be placing it over at the edge of this one so that I can map out the shape I have there. So can you see this? This is the front piece. I'm placing this over this way so that I can get this shape all the way. So I'm just going to use my chalk to trace it out. So you can see this. I've traced out the shape. So what I'm going to do now is to turn it to this other side and place it in such a way that it will be overlapping this line. What I'm trying to do now is to cut out the side. I hope you understand. We first of all turn it this way to mark out the shape. So now I'm turning it to this other side where you have it on fold. I'm turning it now and I'm overlapping it on these lines that we have drawn. So it's going to overlap it, say like with half of an inch, okay? So I'm overlapping it. Mind you, the overlapping is not going to extend to this part. You're just overlapping it on this part where you have the straight line. That's from the waist to the new line, okay? So once I'm done placing it properly, I will now start taking my shape, okay? But before that, I'm going to mark out the lines. Remember here, the waistline, the hip line is at 9 inches. So I'm just extending this line now. The hip line here and the new line here as well. Okay? So I'll take my waist measurement starting from here now. This part. So the waist is 34. If I divide it by 4, I have 8.5. So I'm going to place my tape here I mark out 8.5. Then with an extra sewing allowance, I'll add 2.5 inches extra. Then for the hip line, which is 41 divided by 4, I have 10.25. So I'm placing it here, marking out 10.25, and also put my extra allowance of 2.5. Then for the nail, in order to get the new measurement is take away 6 inches from the hip, divide it by 4, okay? Or better still, fix in what you have for the hip measurement and take away 1.5 inches or 2, just the way you do if you're cutting out a pencil skirt, just to pencil it at this new length, okay? So I will put in my hip measurement, which I already have here, 10.25. I'll just do that. Add the extra 2.5 inches as well. Then I will go inwards back by, say, 1.5 inch. I'm going inwards back by 1.5 inch. So I'm just going to connect this from the waist to the hip, then from the hip to the nail. Okay. So like I said, the essence of overlapping this is just to get the shape from the waist, the hip, and the nail. You don't necessarily have to overlap this other part, because from this nail now we are going to extend this all the way to the floor length. It's as simple as that. So I'll go ahead and do this from the nail all the way to the floor length, so you can see this. So what I'll do now is to cut this out. You can see we've created our shape, so I'll just go ahead and cut this out. So what I would like to do, since this I'm cutting out the same side for both the front and the back, so I'm going to place over the other piece so I can just cut out everything together. So I have the other piece for the sides of the back, just placing it over. So I'll go ahead and cut. So here it is, guys, the sides for the front piece and the back piece, the center fold for the back piece, the center fold for the front piece. The lining, I'll cut it afterwards. It's either you cut it exactly the same way, or better still, when you're done joining the parts, you can now, place it over a lining and cut it out, whichever way. Okay, so the first thing is going to be to join these sides together, and also for the upper part as well. So when I'm done with that, then I'll come back to show you the next step. Okay, so here I'm done joining this piece together for the skirts. So you can see I've turned this all with the lining, and if you notice, there's no joining here, just like I have for the main piece. So like I said, you can choose to cut your lining the same pieces for your main fabric, okay, and also join it together before turning, or you cut it in form of an A line, which is exactly what I did here. Okay, so just cut it in form of an A line, but make sure that the lower part where adding extra allowance for the A line effect will be also much. Okay, just like the normal way you cut your A line, the same hip measurement you have, you place it on the lower part, then add extra 3 to 4 to 5 inches as much. Okay, so in this case I added as much as 10 inches. Okay, yeah, so to give it enough, space at the lower part as well, in as much as I'm not cutting, the exact piece for the fabric. Okay, so that's it, done with the skirt, both the front and back, all turned out with a lining. You can see this. So setting this aside, so here is for the upper part of the dress. This is the front piece. I've also joined it all together, both the back piece as well. So what is left now is for us to cut out the yoke for this dress, and also the neckline for the yoke. So having this, if you notice, I didn't add any pad on this. I just used S tail. Okay, but for the front piece, because this is the front piece, I had to double the S tail. Okay, so that it can also give it, a very good structure. Okay, in as much as I'm not using a breast pad. So what I will do now is to fold this into two, like this. Then I'm going to be cutting out the yoke now. So remember, we have also cut out the slope here already. Okay, so and here, of course, this is the chest line. So I'm just going to extend this chest line straight, so I can actually, know where it stops here. Then from this part, the yoke, ideally for a yoke, 7 inches is okay. So I'm going to be cutting out 7 inches from the top here. So I'm just taking 7 inches mark here for the yoke. Then all I need to do is just to take it all the way to, because I'm creating a sweetheart neck effect. So I'm going to taking it all the way in a curved way to this chest line. So like this. So remember also that our shoulder for this person was 16 inches, right? So which is 8 inches. So if you look at it here, we have 8 inches here. And from here, this is actually where the 8 inches stop. So from this 8 inches, if you look at it here now, the extension we have here is 3.5. So I just realized that when I was cutting out this, I was supposed to put an extra allowance at this shoulder line. We took note of the allowance at the armhole line. Okay, because of the dart that we created. Of course, we have to also put in the extra allowance at the chest line, at the chest line rather. Okay, we inputted the extra dart allowance that was created. So I was supposed to also effect it on this shoulder line. Please take note of that. So the good thing here is that when I was cutting out, putting the extra allowance, that's creating my extended shoulder. Remember I said 3 inches is okay, 2.5 to 3 inches is fine, but I had to increase it to as much as 4 to 4.5 inches extra, that I can always trim out the excesses. I always say that. Okay, so here realizing that I didn't put the extra allowance for that was going to be going off here. Okay, so because of that extra allowance I added, it has made up for it. Okay, so I could say that's the saving grace I have here. Okay, so in other words, 8 inches for the shoulder, so I still have 3 inches, 3.5 inches could go for my drop shoulder, that's the dolman sleeve, or the extended shoulder, 3.5. Then I'll use half of an inch to sew it to the sleeve itself. I hope you understand that. Okay, so I'm just trying to point out that. So for my neckline now, for this yoke part, it's going to be wide. So I'll do 7 inches for the neckline. I'll do 7 inches for the neckline because I want it to be really wide. So that's why it will look like an off shoulder kind of, okay, because it's very, very close to being off from the shoulder. So 7 inches. Then the neck depth I'm going to do let's say 3.5 inches, or I'll do 4 inches. Do 4 inches for the neck depth, 4 inches for the neck depth, 7 inches for the neck width. So that's it. So I'll just um, connect this. So this is fine. So remember, this is my sweetheart neck. So here it is. 3.5 inches, 4 inches. I'm just making sure that my extended shoulder does not exceed 3.5 inches here. Then I have an extra half of an inch to sew it to the sleeve. So every other excesses I'm going to trim out. So you can see this. So once I open it up, you can see how it looks. So for the yoke, you can see the neckline. So what I'm going to do now is to place this on my net fabric, the lace fabric rather. So I'll be placing this. But also take note that when you're cutting this out, you need to add an extra half of an inch at the lower part as well. So if I'm placing this on my fabric, I'm going to be cutting out an extra half of an inch. It's very important, okay? Because I will also be sewing it back to this lower piece. I hope you understand that. But I'm not going to be cutting out that yet. I want first of all cut out my sleeve, which is a circle, before I go ahead and cut this so that I don't waste the fabric. So what I will do now is to also repeat the same process for the lining as well. I'm going to cutting out this of the lining too. So for the back piece, I'm also going to take note of the chest line here. So here I'm also going to take note of the shoulder, which is at 8, that's 16 divided by 2, 8. So I'm taking note of the shoulder line here. So from this shoulder, remember I said the dolman sleeve, I'm not exceeding 3.5 inch. I'm not exceeding 3.5 inch. Then plus extra half of an inch I'll be using to sew it to the sleeve. So for the neckline, I'm also using the same neck width of 7. Same neck width of 7. And for the neck depth, I'm going to be doing, say, 6 inches for the neck depth. So I really want it to come down. So I'm taking it this way. So because of this deeper allowance, I will be extending the line here. Okay. So on this chest line, I'll just cut it off straight this way for the yoke. It's okay. Or I could just give it a little bit of slant. So I could just go, say, half an inch, just a little bit, to have it slanted. So from there, I'll just slant it here. So I'll go ahead and cut this off. I like to cut this together with the lining. So this is going to be the yoke. So for the sleeve, I want the sleeve length to be say 13 inches. Now remember that the dolman sleeve, that's the extension of the sleeve, was at 3 inches thereabout, 3.5, 3 inches, but I'll work with 3 inches, right? So since the extension of the shoulder is 3 inches, which makes a part of the sleeve, then, and I want the sleeve length to be 13. So if I take away that 3 inches, I'm left with 10 inches. So 10 inches for my main sleeve using my fabric. Also, for the lower part of the sleeve, you can see that there is a length there created with ruffle. Okay, the length of the ruffle should be 3 inches. That means I'll take that away from the 10 inches I have left for my length of the sleeve. So I'm left with like 7 inches. I hope you understand that. So 7 inches I'll be cutting out for my sleeve here. In order to get the circumference, if you go back to our yoke here, you can see that this is where the sleeve is going to come in. So if I measure what I have here, it's about 8.5 here. So this is just a part of the sleeve. There's going to be a joining at this upper part. So once you join it, you have it longer, right? So this 8.5 by 2, you should give me 17 inches. Although I'm going to be having a joining at the shoulder part, right? So between 16 to 17 inches. Okay, so let's just say 16 inches. The total armhole I'll be using for my sleeve. I hope you understand that. So I'll be working with 16 inches as the circumference now of my armhole. So I want to work with what I have here actually. So if I see the length of what I have here is 11 inches. So taking away 8 inches of my length, the remaining is 3 inches, right? So I'm going to mark out a circumference of 3 inches all the way. So this is 3 inches here. And if I get the what I have here in total, what I have here is 5 inches. And this is folded into 4. So 5 times 4, that's 20. And what I need is just 16 inches. So which means I'm going to have an extra of, 4 inches thereabout, okay? Which is okay. First of all, I'll mark out my total circumference, which is 11 inches. And place it on my lace so I can cut it out as well. So here it is. So when I'm creating the extra pleat, I'll make sure that I circulate it round. Just for instance, you have it this way, just create a little bit of pleat in between. In between, you can see it's going to give it some full structure. Okay, so when I'm fixing it on the armhole part, a pleat in between as you sew along. I hope you understand that, which of course is optional. Okay, when you open this up and also open up my lace, so it's going to be, so this is how it's going to look. Placing this over this way, then I'll also cut out the lining as well. So I'll also place the lining on it. So the lining, I'm going to be sewing on the lining. After that, I'll have it turned over. So this is how it's going to appear. Okay, yeah. So that is it for the sleeve. Then for the ruffle, remember I said there's going to be a ruffle at the lower part of this sleeve. Okay, so and this is the light fabric I'm using for the ruffle. This, I'm going to have something like this. This is just an illustration. This is just for one sleeve, and if you check what you have here, it's quite much, starting from 1 point. So I have here, so you can see I have over 60 plus. I have over 60 plus. This 67 just for one sleeve, and the same thing for the other sleeve. 67, 67. And remember, you're also going to be putting this same ruffle on the skirt part as well. So after you have sewn your sleeve, you have it on your lace this way, and you have your ruffle. So you're going to be placing it in such a way that the sleeve will be overlapping it. That's why I said you will not cut out the exact length that you need, because you'll be putting it under. Okay, so you need to create you increase it by half or 1 inches um, in length, okay, as to what you already want. So for instance, I'm using 3, I cut out 4, so I'm going to be placing it this way. When you place it, then you will now sew on top of your sleeves, like top stitching on it, so you can see how it looks. This is how it's going to appear. So that's it, guys. That's it on how to do this. So what is left now is just for me to go, of course, join all this part together, and this beautiful dress will be ready. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's tutorial. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. um Please, if you find this video helpful, please go ahead and like, share, and also comment. Okay, I like to hear from you. Any questions, suggestion, I appreciate that. Drop it in the comment section. Okay, and if you're new as well, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Remember also to turn your bell notification bells on. That's the way you get notified every time I upload my weekly videos. Thank you once again to all my subscribers. I will not stop thanking you guys. Thank you so much. Okay, till I see you on the next video. Have a beautiful day.